30 years ago, Metallica released the Black Album onto an unsuspecting world, seeing them to go on to be not just one of the most successful metal bands in the world, but one of the most successful bands in the world, period. 29 years ago, a young, fresh-faced future YouTube icon was introduced to the world of metal via Metallica. Granted, he's not been as successful in his endeavours as Metallica, but still. Yes, 29 years ago, since Metallica ushered me in as a fan. So, is this about the Black Album or you? A little of column A, a little of column B. Don't you feel that some people might feel a bit cheated clicking on a video like this, expecting something else? Fuck 'em. Right then. It's 30 years of the Black Album. So, welcome back everybody to another video, and in all seriousness, this video is very much going to be all about Metallica's Black Album. 30 years old, they've just put out the remaster. I do apologise if it's incredibly windy. I do have my windy muff to assuage the wind as much as possible, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, 30 years of the Black Album, which is crazy. I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to do a video, not only because it's such an important album in my life, it introduced me to Metallica and the greater, wider, wonderful world of metal, but also I kind of thought it'd be cool to do it from the perspective of somebody who was actually there at the time. Now, Metallica have just put out a remaster. I'm actually filming this days before that's released, so I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet. So if you guys are kind of more interested in my thoughts on the remaster, how it sounds, does it sound any better, is it worth it, all the demos, all the rest of it, then, you know, if this video gets 100 million likes, then maybe I'll do one. Don't you think that's asking a bit too much? 100 million likes or nothing. Nothing wrong with aiming high, I suppose. So this video is going to be very much more about my personal connection with the album, and I am going to be going through all of the songs, so I'm going to be doing a few different little bits and pieces as well. Now, I know also that there's the Metallica Blacklist album that's being released with God knows how many different artists doing their take on the songs. I've got to admit, I've not really got any interest in that whatsoever. I don't care when it comes to these songs. I want to hear the originals. I have heard a few. I thought some of them were okay. But again, it's the same with all this cover stuff. You know, it always makes me just want to listen to the original. So yeah, I won't be covering that. Before I start getting into the individual songs, I think one of the things I wanted to mention was just how timeless this album still sounds. I mean, one of the standout things about it in the first place was the phenomenal production, which which totally stands up by today's standards. It really does. That obviously helps the contemporary sort of sound of it. You know, listening to it again, it still sounds very fresh, like it could have been released today. But it's also a testament to the songs themselves. If you listen to the first 4 albums by Metallica, they all sound very much of their time. I love all those albums, don't get me wrong. In fact, the Black Album is not my #1 album. If you're interested in that, I have actually done a ranking album of the Metallica stuff. You'll find a description down below for that. Go for that. But yeah, they sound very much of their time. The Load era stuff sounds very much of the 90s. The Saint Anger album, I mean, God knows what that sounds like, but it was definitely kind of trying to fit in with the new metal scene of the time. And what else do we have? That, you know, and then Death Magnetic and Hardwired, while fantastic albums, they do kind of, you know, they do have that more nostalgic throwback to their sort of thrash days on those albums. But the Black Album, it still feels very, I said those songs are timeless. You can see why it was huge. And I've been listening to the album a lot again, and I'm kind of really taken aback at just how much those songs really do still stand up. And it's a pretty phenomenal album. So first of all, I just wanted to go into a bit of my history with the album. What was it that brought me to it? What was my first exposure to it? The first band that I ever truly loved was Queen. And of course, Freddie Mercury passed away. Was it 1991? I think it was the same year this album came out. And in, I want to say, April 1992, they did the Freddie Mercury tribute concert for AIDS awareness. And the opening band was Metallica. And they played Enter Sandman, so that was the first song I ever heard, Sad But True, and Nothing Else Matters from the album. And instantly I felt something about these songs. I just loved them, and straight away I just loved these songs. Now, Guns N' Roses would also play on that concert, and they really got me as well. And I have to say that I was probably a bigger Guns N' Roses fan for a little while there, for probably about 6 months, which was a long time back in those days. But very slowly but surely Metallica took over, and there was something about their sound that just resonated with me more and more, especially when I actually got the album itself. As I've already mentioned, the production, but it's not just the, it's the overall sound of the album. The drums snapped, the bass, much lacking on the And Justice for All album, was absolutely, very much in place. So I could have said that better. But I think the thing that really grabbed me was that guitar tone. I think maybe this is something that all metalheads can relate to some degree or other, but I don't know, there was just something about the sound. It literally resonated within me. It spoke to me in a way that other sound didn't. Now, I'm a child of the 80s, and I grew up listening to all that sort of dark wave and synth pop, and I loved a lot of that music. I love a lot of pop music, I love a lot of all sorts of music, but nothing spoke to me quite in the same way as those guitars did, more than anything else. And then of course Hetfield's lyrics as well, which was just, at that time, it's like I'd never heard anything like that. So much more personal and dark, and expressing things that I hadn't heard before. Things that I was feeling, but I hadn't heard anyone say. I think that's a common thing with a lot of people with music as well. It kind of makes you feel less alone. One thing I will say though about the production of the album, there was a bit of a detriment for a while, was that I judged every single other album by that production. I mean, how old would I have been? I think, what was it, 30 years ago? So I'd have been 14, 15, something like that at the time. So when I heard the Black Album, I kind of just assumed that that's how albums sounded, everything sounded that good. I remember going back and getting the other 4 Metallica albums, and as much as I absolutely dearly love all of them, I remember at first, especially going from Black Album to And Justice for All, which is known for its production, I couldn't understand why it sounded like that. It's like, why doesn't it sound like the Black Album? It made no sense to me. So, that really affected me as well when I went back to listen to stuff like Black Sabbath. I'm embarrassed to say now, but I remember hearing the song Black Sabbath for the first time and being incredibly disappointed. Like, what the hell is this? It sounded so weak compared to the big fat productions that I was used to. Of course, I've gone on to appreciate Sabbath totally now, and I can put myself back in that time and very much immerse myself in the music. But yeah, back then it was quite funny. Just why does it sound like this? It makes no sense. So anyway, there's enough about that. I think it's time that I get into the songs. So let's start out with Enter Sandman. And as I said, this was the very first song that I heard of theirs, playing live at the Freddie Mercury tribute. And I mean, I was hooked straight away. But I remember getting the album version. There's something to this day that still, I don't know, sets something off in my brain when I hear those opening chords to this song. that just sends me to a magical place. And I don't know, I think it will always be there. Yeah, straight away you conjure up that imagery of the dream world with these simple notes. And then of course you get that riff, that iconic riff. That absolutely iconic riff, which I believe was written by Kirk. And I think Kirk's actually doesn't get enough credit for a lot of what he brings to Metallica. He's written a lot of memorable riffs, and he's brought in a lot to the songs that they've written. Of course, his fabulous solos, but you know, and I don't think he gets enough credit as a lead guitar player either. Actually, I can't think of many metal guitarists who have as many memorable, hummable solos as him. Surely that's the mark of a great soloist. The iconic Enter Sandman, a song that has, ever since this album, remained a firm staple in the live set of the band. Of course, the song deals with the mythical Sandman, I believe Eastern European myth of a being who, I think he had good intentions. I think it was sprinkling. Bit of an omen, that. I think his intentions were good. He'd sprinkled dust into the eyes of, I want to say children, but I think the intention was to bring good dreams. I think the myth has maybe taken a bit of a twisted turn in modern culture and sort of other takes on it, but I think originally it was supposed to be a good dude. James sort of regaling us with this tale of being taken off to Never Never Land. Such iconic riffs, great solo from Kirk, wah-drenched as usual, and the aforementioned prominent bass that was very much missing from Injustice for All, and those incredible sounding drums, which will take a real role in our next song, Sad But True. Again, one of the first songs I was exposed to live from the Freddie Mercury tribute, which I watched on TV, by the way, I wasn't there. This song really got me. I think what I remember so much about the live performance was Jason Newsted. So I want to do a special mention for Jason Newsted. So I think he kind of gets forgotten a bit now. But yeah, I remember me and my friend Andrew Hall, we would watch this particular song over and over again. We'd rewind it all the time because Jason, he had this long hair and he had the shaved side of the head. So when he was headbanging, he looked insane to me as a teenager. I was like, what the hell is this guy about? He just looked so intense. It was great. I loved it. So Cliff Burton, obviously a phenomenal bass player. And, you know, I mean, he's responsible for some of the most amazing songs I've ever heard in my life. Robert Trujillo does a phenomenal job now, and he fits very much in with the Metallica family. Of course, Ron McGovney, let's give him a shout out as well. He was there at the beginning. But for me, I think Jason Newsted will always be my Metallica bass player. And he went through a lot for the band, and he gave a lot as well. It's worth mentioning that there's actually an unboxing video of Jason opening the vinyl edition, the deluxe edition of this remastered, re-release, I suppose. And it's really heartwarming, it's really touching, seeing him just opening it up and talking about certain things and photos and songs and events. And yeah, he's great, Jason. I love Jason Newsted, he's awesome. But yes, Sad But True. That riff. Tone sounds shit. By far the most heavy song I would have ever heard in my life at the time of listening to this. And it still holds up. That slow pace, down-tuned to D standard, which Bob Rock says he's responsible for. Heard in a couple of interviews him sort of saying how they always tuned in E, and Bob Rock questioned them about that, and sort of said to them, well, you know, Sabbath used to down-tune their instruments all the time. And so he suggested them tuning down to D, but they'd already recorded the thing that should not be on Masters of Puppets, which was in drop D. So, I mean, admittedly, maybe, I mean, this was the whole guitar drop down, maybe that's what he meant, I don't know, but yeah, it makes, I don't know, I found that a bit questionable, that one. Not only was this sonically heavy, the guitars, I started out talking about Lars Ulrich's drums, didn't I? And I didn't finish off that that thread. But yeah, the snap of the snare on this sound, on this song, just sounded monstrous. And that, I believe that the snare sound in particular has been sampled by so many bands. I believe you can trigger drum samples when you're recording live. I know Devin Townsend did it when he was recording Ocean Machine. I know all sorts of bands have done it. I think it was the go-to sound because it was such a huge sound. And when he just kicks in with those drums, oh my God, it sounds monstrous. That guitar riff, of course, which we've already done. And but I think also the lyrics, talking about the dark side of the personality taking over. Again, to my ears at the time, I'd never heard anything like it. It just sounded great. You're my mask. You're my cover, my shelter. You're my mask. You're the one who's blamed. So dark, so heavy. And yeah, still to this day, stands up. Just that, oh, it's just that, you know, it's just that touch too slow that kind of makes you, feel just a bit uncomfortable, but in a good way. Absolutely fantastic song, phenomenal. Another one that is pretty much played at every single Metallica concert, and certainly I think every Metallica show I've been to, and I've been to a fair few at this point as well. Little interesting fact about me there. Next up we have Holier Than Now, which is not one of my favourites. This one about us, you know, the lyrics I actually kind of enjoy, about a self-righteous person who's kind of judging everybody else when perhaps they should be looking inward and looking at themselves, which, let's be honest, is something that probably, pardon me, got windy pups, probably all of us should be doing. It's got some really good riffs in it as well. It's got some really good it's got some really good down-picked riffing from James, which I'll demonstrate now. Interestingly enough, Bob Rock actually suggested that this be the lead single from the album. I think they chose wisely in not doing that and sticking to their guns. I think it was Enter Sandman, wasn't it? That was the first single of 5. Yeah, Holier Than Now. Sorry. Next up we have the Unforgiven, and some of the more personal lyrics from James. In fact, I think what we've got, the Unforgiven, Nothing Else Matters, and The God That Failed on this album, where James really digs into his psyche and exposes himself in a way that he'd never done up until this point. I've always admired James Hetfield. Metallica have gotten a lot of flack over the years, and that's because, well, they're the top dogs on the hill, and you know, therefore it's easy to take swipes. But I've always admired James Hetfield. He's a very spiritual dude, and there's a lot of times where I've been feeling down, and I've actually watched a lot of interviews with him. I tend to sort of go more towards his interviews than the songs sometimes, just to hear him speak about stuff, because he just seems like a really spiritual dude. And considering the immense success the band have had, I think it's admirable how much they have dealt with it. People go on about, you know, there's some kind of monster documentary and all this, and now it's kind of sad and embarrassing. But I mean, god damn it, man, imagine being in a band as big and successful as they are and being able to deal with that. That's some alpha shit right there. But anyway, I got a bit sidetracked there. The Unforgiven, and this is the first ballad on the album. Lyrically, and I'm talking lyrically now, this song deals, well, it kind of tells the tale of I guess it shows the lifespan of a man, and kind of shows him from being a boy, growing into a man and getting old, and how his entire life he's been controlled and maybe never thought for himself enough, or what's the right words? Anyway, I'm guessing it's not too far of a stretch to see the comparisons between this and James's own life, some of the issues that he had with his dad, and through being brought up in the faith of Christian Science, which we will be getting into later on with The God That Failed. Obviously, this is a very personal theme for James, because he returns to it on Reload with Unforgiven 2 and with Death Magnetic with Unforgiven 3. It's something that he keeps coming back to, so I guess it's parts of his himself that he wants to address and deal with. I think there's catharsis kind of with each song, maybe more acceptance of how he was brought up, and you know, that sort of thing. I should have researched this one a bit more. Now, this followed a tradition as well, which started on Ride the Lightning, of the 4th song of the album being a ballad, but they treated the structure on this one a little bit differently, where the verses were heavy and the chorus was the mellow. A great song, and another one that is always part of the live set. Really saw the band maturing as writers, with James really starting to bare his soul. And also worth mentioning, an absolutely kick-ass solo from Kirk as well. Well done, chaps. Next up, yet another live favourite, Wherever I May Roam. A song about a drifter who lives a nomadic lifestyle, and you know, very few material possessions to get in the way, but kind of living a life that is free. It doesn't take a huge leap of imagination to see this and the comparisons between the nomadic lifestyle of being a travelling band and travelling the globe, and you know, spreading your music. Always love the lyrics in this one. But first, musically speaking, and I'm speaking musically now, we get a real Eastern flavour with this. We get the sitar that plays the opening riff. I don't have a sitar, so I won't be playing that. But yeah, we get those Eastern chord progressions, those Eastern scales, and of course those hammering drums from Lars. Dun, 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 dun. Another bit there. I was going to say lyrically speaking, and I'm speaking lyrically now again, that old joke about the lyrics, but I guess I addressed that at the beginning, didn't I? the old nomadic thing. I've already done it, already did it. No need to go there. There's a couple of moments in this song I always loved as well. But I ask no one. I love that bit. And of course my body lies, but still I roam. The idea that hopefully, you know, when you die, you live on, you know. You know, that adorable little stoner from a year and a half in the life of Metallica, eh? Do you remember that? Oh God, I remember watching them documentaries as well. 30 years. 29 in my case, but god damn. This album meant a lot to me, man, still does. Crazy, absolutely crazy. Next up we have Don't Tread on Me, and this one starts out with the band playing America from West Side Story. I'm not going to play the riff from that because that's a completely different thing and that might even cause more copyright problems. Oh no, I can't sit down. I was going to take my backpack off then, but then that would spoil my windy muff. Have a nice sit down now though. Enjoy this wonderful sunshine. Yes, James Hetfield describes this song as just one of those don't fuck with us songs. So there you go, that pretty much sums it up. It's also worth pointing out as well that this song was heavily influenced by the Gadsden flag. And that flag has a rattlesnake on it, which I think is the same rattlesnake that appears on the album, and you can barely see the damn thing. I know that a lot of the lyrics were actually inspired by an address by some president or other. I did write the riff, I did write the stuff down for this one, but I've not got it somewhere, so maybe I'll insert something. Let's play a riff. Let's play a riff. Been a while since I played that riff, can't remember that one. Yeah, the riffing I always loved, that dun 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 dun. I could just play this song, couldn't I? But again, this one is not one of my more favourite, you know, it's one of my less favourites on the album, this one, which I think is more of a, you know, shows more the strength of the other songs. As no, I've never been a huge fan of this song. Definitely one of my less favourites of the album. Next up we have Through the Never, and the opening riff on this one very much takes me back to that sort of down-picked style that we had on Master of Puppets. Let's go. This song deals with the enormity of the universe and looking at mankind's place in it, or seeking for knowledge and the wonder of the universe, I guess. I do like this song a lot. Twisting, turning through the never, never is. Da-ba-da, forgotten the lyrics. Da-ba-dam. Never do the thingy, go, go. I enjoy this song very much, and especially that breakdown riff. You know the one I'm talking about. So dang good. And that brings us on to Nothing Else Matters. I think for people who were introduced to the band through the Black Album, it's, you know, you kind of judge things a bit differently with people who were there at the beginning. Because I remember when I remember when Load came out and there was even more of a backlash to that. And I didn't have a problem with the album because, you know, I started with the Black Album, then went back to the heavier stuff. But I'd already been introduced to the band through the mellower stuff and through the ballads and stuff like that. So it kind of made it easier for someone like me to get into Load, which I think is an incredibly underrated album. Again, I've done an album ranking list. Perhaps you should check that one out after this video. But another one where James is really bearing his soul on this one. I think this one was written in a hotel room, I believe. I don't know if he was talking to his girlfriend at the time or somebody else, but he was missing home, and as he was talking on the phone, he had his guitar in his hand and he started playing those open stringed intro notes, and I think these notes immediately caught his attention, and I think he promptly, you know, ended the call and went to towards writing the song. From what I understand, this one was originally just written for James. It was about missing home, and, you know, while you have stuff like Wherever I May Roam, which celebrates the lifestyle of being on the road, this one is more of the reflective side of missing people and wanting to be back with your loved ones. And I think he originally wrote this song as a way to make himself feel better, and he would just play it to himself. And I think one of the band actually heard it, and he was shocked to find that they all loved it, and they were the ones who pushed for it to go on the album. And it was a pretty damn good call. This was obviously one of those songs that alienated a lot of fans as well, the old school ones. But I think this is a beautiful song. How can you not love Nothing Else Matters? Such a personal song, so beautifully written, so beautifully put together. I think that's one of the great things about this album as well, is that you've got, there's so many dynamics through it. In fact, I think that's one of the things that makes sense to me about Metallica, all in all. I saw the Big Four in Prague, was it 2010? Something like that, and you obviously had Anthrax opening the show. Well, actually it was Devil Driver opening the show, but you understand what I'm saying, of the Big Four. So it was Anthrax, Megadeth, Slayer, then Metallica. And as much as I love all of those bands, it kind of made sense where each band was in terms of their, you know, their ranking. It kind of made sense that Anthrax opened. It made sense that Megadeth were next. Then you had Slayer coming in with a heavy and, like, you know, that unrelenting side of them that, you know, it just really worked. But when it came to Metallica headlining, it made total sense because they've got everything. They've got the heavy songs, they've got the slower pace stuff, they've got the groovier stuff, they've got the ballads, they've got the real dynamics. They can completely construct a show around that, just like this album, where, you know, peaks and troughs, and, you know, goes from faster to heavy to slower and mellow, and yeah, it just works so well. I love this song. Just going to read a quote from the man himself now for authenticity, and, you know, because it saves me having to come up with anything else myself, although, to be fair, judging by the length of this video, I'm not having a problem with that. Nothing Else Matters was a song for me. It was not to be heard by the general public. It was a song written in hotel rooms on the Justice Tour about missing friends at home, being out for such a long time. That was a song that was not meant to be played for other people. It was for me. I think that's important, to write music that makes you feel good. I've got quite a few good songs that are like that. Nothing Else Matters was heard by the band. They thought it was amazing. I thought, you're crazy. That's just this sappy ballady thing that makes me feel okay. No, that's good. Just goes to show I have no idea what's good. Laughs, it says here. Oh, I can imagine. That iconic Hetfield laugh. Is that how it goes? Oh God, that was more like Eddie Murphy. A truly classic, classy song. Not just for Metallica, but... my windy mouth. Not just for Metallica, but in general. An absolutely incredible song, and one that many non-metalheads know and love, and this metalhead does love it. There's a B. Next up we have Of Wolf and Man, Riff. A song about being a werewolf, essentially, which is about as metal as you can get. It also serves as a metaphor for hunting and the nature of man, which is also as fucking metal as you can get. Metal as fuck. Nuff said. Next up, we have The God That Failed, and this is a song that, for me, I think has gotten better as I've gotten older. Maybe I didn't quite understand what was going on with the lyrics. Well, I wouldn't have understood at all because I didn't know the circumstances. But yeah, this is definitely one of those ones, the older I've gotten, the more I can kind of relate to this one. This is a particularly heavy song, both musically and lyrically. And this is an incredibly personal song that deals with James's aforementioned Christian Science upbringing, more specifically the death of his mother. I think a part of the Christian Science belief is much like a lot of other religions. They don't believe in medicine. Basically, James's mother, I think when he was very young, she was diagnosed with cancer, and because of her beliefs, she didn't take any medical procedures at all. She took nothing. Basically, the cancer progressed, and ultimately she very sadly died. I think James was like 16 at the time, or something like that, which is crazy. Very young age to lose a parent. Not only that, I think when he was 13, his dad left. Just went out one day, the classic going out for cigarettes, and never came back. So the God that failed, the idea that this faith that you're supposed to have in this higher power, and that this higher power allowed essentially both of his parents to leave him. Yeah, you can imagine how that must be quite a traumatic experience for anyone of any age, let alone being 16 years old. So yeah, there's a lot of that that's explored in this song. Very, very personal song. You can tell there's a lot of anger in what he's saying, and yet another fine example of James really starting to bare his soul and really expressing his true self through his music, which is something a lot of metalheads don't do. There's such a conservative almost kind of thing with a lot of metalheads, and this idea that you have to be a certain way. You know, same with punk and same with a lot of sort of things. You know, you start out with these you know, breaking the rules and not giving a damn, and then suddenly these rules get put in place upon you, and you know you're supposed to look a certain way, sound a certain way, you can't say certain things. As I said, I've already mentioned my admiration for James, but you know, somebody really puts himself out there and truly says what they think and what they're feeling. I have all the admiration in the world for people like that, and this song is a fine example of that. I love this song, and it gets better every time I hear it. Phenomenal song. Next up we have My Friend of Misery, starting out with that memorable bass line from Jason Newsted. This one was originally supposed to be the album's instrumental, which, much like song 4 being the, you know, the ballad, this was, you know, the previous 3 albums had also had an instrumental track on them, which I always loved. I've always loved Metallica's instrumental stuff. So cinematic, so operatic. Operatic? No, I wouldn't go so far as operatic. But this one progressed into the song that we know and love today. And this is another one that I think is a great song, basically about I guess the lyrics look at a self-pitying man who just is angry at the world, and maybe like Holier than Thou, maybe they should be looking at themselves more and, you know, correcting themselves and looking at how they can improve themselves rather than just putting out bitterness. This song is particularly poignant to me because it can both apply to me and it can apply to others around me. You know, there's definitely at times where I'm the person in this song. I could almost be the narrator in this song, being the one who lets self-pity get in the way and, oh God, life's so shit, God, poor me, victim. There's a lot more times when I'm not that anymore, but I see this song much more in other people. And yeah, it's very... James as a lyricist, I think, doesn't get anywhere near as much credit as he should do. Especially some of the earlier albums as well. I think some of the stuff he did on Unjustice for All was phenomenal, lyrically speaking. I'm talking lyrically now with that video again. Great song, another really heavy one as well. It's got some really memorable riffs in this one as well, some nice little hooks. Another great solo from Kirk as well. Goddamn insects. Great song. And then finishing the album, we have The Struggle Within. Now, I've got to admit, this is probably my least favourite song on the album. I was always kind of disappointed with how this album ended. As much as I love it, yeah, I've always kind of struggled within this song. I was going to say again, that's probably more testament to the strength of the other songs on the album, but no, I've never really felt much for this song at all, really. Got some decent heavy chugging though. There's a real decent, again, down-picked riff. I do kind of appreciate some of the lyrics though, of course, dealing with the struggle within. Okay, now I'm embarrassed to say that I actually carried on talking for about 15 minutes after this point, and it wasn't until later on that I realised that the microphone had died. The rechargeable battery on the microphone had completely died, and I think that goes some way to say just how much I was going on in this video. But there we go, the Black Album, 30 years, Struggle Within, last song. Not one of my favourites, but I already spoke about that. Yeah man, 30 years of the Black Album. This album is hugely important to me, so important to me. It feels like only yesterday that I was listening to it for the first time. It's crazy how much has changed in that time, both for Metallica and myself. It's crazy. There's a lot of living that can be done in 30 years. I like the idea of maybe doing something else again in another 30 years. I'll hold myself to that if I'm still capable of doing videos. I'll be 74 at that point. I hope I'll be pretty good by that point. Who knows if YouTube or anything like that will still be around then. Who knows. A ridiculously good album. One that changed the world, really. It certainly changed my world anyway. Introduced me to metal and a whole new way of thinking and looking at things. Phenomenal. Absolutely love this album. God bless Metallica, God bless the Black Album. And you could have listened to the album in the time that it took you to watch this video. Absolutely cray-cray. The only other thing I'd like to say is if you made it this far into the video, then more than likely you're one of the people who has supported me for a very long time. So thank you very much for that. If you could drop a like on the video, it really, really does help to boost these videos. It really does help with the algorithm. I do have other videos planned. I know I say that every single time, but I genuinely do. I hope you guys enjoyed the little guitar, little bits that I put in there, because that's something I plan to do in future videos. That's actually why it took me quite a while to put out a new video, because I haven't played in a while and I've been practicing again, you know, kind of getting my chops back up. I'm still not there yet, but you know, sometimes you've just got to go for it. I'm going to be doing some more album ranking videos. Slayer, Machine Head and Mastodon, definitely. I might put a poll out on my community section nearer the time to see what you guys would prefer to see first. If you're not already, follow me on TikTok and Instagram, free to be who I be. I'll be posting updates on there. I'll be doing more guitar stuff on there, and as I'm using copyrighted material now in these videos, it's a good way for me to keep you up to date with what's going on should anything happen with the channel. I doubt it very much. I've used copyrighted material before, but you know, you never know. Laws are changing all the time. So yeah, follow me on those if you're on them. I know a lot of you aren't, but don't tell me about it. Don't tell me about it. Don't tell me you haven't got an account. Just don't follow. That's fine. It's fine. But I've got some other plans, but I'll hold back on those for now. So Metallica, the Black Album, 30 years old. Go listen to it again. If you haven't listened to it in a while, reintroduce yourself to it and have a good time. God damn, it's a good album. And let's bring this video to a close, shall we? I'll see you next time. Goodbye.